Isle of Dogs is directed by Wes Anderson and starring Bryan Cranston, Koyu Rankin, Edward Norton, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Murray, Bob Balaban, Greta Gerwig, Frances McDormand, Scarlett Johansson, and Harvey Keitel, as well as a lot of other people. This film is filled with a lot of great actors. Before I go any further, I just want to say there will not be any plot spoilers in this review. This is a stop-motion animation movie, and it is set 20 years in the future in a fictitious city known as Megasaki. What has happened is that the dogs have become overpopulated, and it has created a new strain of flu known as dog flu, and the dogs are also getting this disease known as snout fever. So the evil mayor of Megasaki has decided that instead of waiting for a cure for these diseases, he has decided to exile all of the dogs onto this big trash island. And one day, a boy travels to this trash island in order to find his dog who has been left there. And he meets up with a group of other dogs who decide to help him on his journey and his quest to find his dog. This is not the first stop-motion animation film that Wes Anderson has done. Several years ago, I believe in 2009, he came out with an adaptation of the Roald Dahl book, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and that film is one of my favorites of his. It is one that I go back to over and over again because I find it so much fun to watch. But this film is a lot different than that because I find it to be more mature, more adult, and also the technology has advanced greatly since then, and we definitely see that in this movie. Also, Wes Anderson is back on his game, doing what Wes Anderson does best, making these odd, unique, quirky movies that are really specific to him. That is the one thing I can say about Wes Anderson, is when you watch a Wes Anderson movie, you know it's a Wes Anderson movie. I also really love stop-motion animation. It is something that is different than other animation that we see when it comes to the 3D animation from Pixar or DreamWorks, or still some of the hand-drawn stuff that we get from Disney. Stop-motion animation, you can tell how much effort, how much time, how much craft it takes to really get this to be perfect, because every little nuance needs to be perfect, and there's nothing like its aesthetic. That is one of the main things I love about this movie, is the aesthetic is so fantastic. It's so just magnificently well crafted, and also when it comes to Wes Anderson's movie, every shot is so fantastically composed. Everything is so well balanced. He is notorious for having things just perfectly well balanced in the frame, and you see that in this movie a lot. When it comes to the voice acting in this movie, it is top notch. You get a lot of these similar actors who've been in a lot of previous Wes Anderson movies, like Edward Norton and Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum. Bob Balaban shows up. You get a couple of new people in it, Scarlett Johansson, and Greta Gerwig also does a voice as well, but what you get is a lot of unique characters in this movie. All of the dogs have their own personality, all of them have their own agendas, all of them are unique, and all of them also really fit within this world. And there's also something I have to say about Wes Anderson and his movies, is he creates these unique worlds that are really kind of these fantasy worlds. They're not like our world. Definitely not this movie, with being in stop motion animation and dealing with anthropomorphic dogs and stuff like that. Also, the movie takes a couple of other odd technical choices where there are Japanese characters in this movie and they speak in Japanese and there are no subtitles for them. What we get is either someone interpreting them, or we get other people reacting to them so we understand what they're saying. It is kind of odd sometimes when I kind of prefer subtitles in movies. I love subtitles in movies, so had they had been in this movie, I would have liked them. Also, the film is a really fun adventure. The plot pacing is great. The movie is only about an hour and 40 minutes long, so everything is moving very, very quickly. Sometimes a little too quickly, but I'll get to that a little later. Also, the film really has a lot of great themes in it as well. At the heart of this movie is this idea of the relationship, of the bond between a person and their pet. In this particular film, it's a dog, but I think we can take that and really extrapolate extrapolated out to the real world when it comes to any pet. There's typically a strong relationship between humans and their pets, and the film really harks on that very, very well, and the film utilizes it really to develop its center and its heart. Also, the film is dealing with a lot of other elements as well when it comes to propaganda, mass manipulation, political power, when it comes to the powerful versus the weak, when the minority versus the majority, and when it comes to the idea of what's right and what's wrong and the perspectives of that and how they're easily changed. It's fantastically deep in that sense, but I think you do need to watch the movie more than once to get all of that, and that brings me to one of my major problems of the movie. In typical Wes Anderson style, he's giving you a lot of information very, very quickly. There is a lot of things happening on screen, and if you're not really in tuned and you're not really engrossed in it and you blink, if you blink a couple of times, you're going to miss something because there's all kind of things happening on there. That's when the plot pacing issue takes over a little bit, when the film is being too fast, giving us too much information too quickly, setting up backstories, telling us about characters, and all this kind of stuff. There's multiple storylines as well, and that is also kind of something that bothered me because there's so much to keep track of. It seems a little overwhelming at times, but I still had a great time watching it. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 5 stars. Great direction from Wes Anderson, top-notch voice talent, a fun adventure, great themes. The plot pacing is a little bit of an issue, but all in all, I highly recommend it, especially if you are a fan of Wes Anderson and understand his particular style of movies. So that has been my review of Isle of Dogs. If you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel.